Hi, this is Brian.
Jason.
And this is the Perfectly Screwed podcast. If you didn't listen to the last episode, this is our part 2 of the dating game killer Rodney Alcala. So if you haven't listened to part 1, go back to the last episode and please listen to that one. So when we left off, he had moved to New York because he had just raped an 8-year-old girl in California, and he had enrolled in NYU under a fake name, John Berger. And this was in 1971. So at the time he enrolled, he also went for counseling. He obtained a counseling job at New Hampshire Arts Camp for Children. Jesus Christ. Okay. He just rapes an 8-year-old in California. And you change your name to John Berger. And then, okay, and I want to say, when he enrolled at NYU, he changed his name to John Berger, B-E-R-G-E-R. But to fool the counseling camp, he changed his name to John Berger, B-U-R-G-E-R. Because it's completely different than B-E-R.
Yeah.
Right. So, and both of these places, still, like you said, don't ask for ID, you're counseling children who have problems, and you don't do any kind of background checks in 1971 at all.
Yeah.
It's cool. Just let anybody come in and be a counselor. It's good.
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
It's fine.
Right, just give us your name. Come on in.
He also began to work for Blue Cross Blue Shield Association, where he worked in the office with another serial killer, Richard Cottingham. So I'm sure they were just comparing notes, boy. Yeah. He worked with another. So Blue Cross Blue Shield not only hired this serial killer, but they obviously were known for in the 70s hiring many serial killers.
Nice.
Good organization, that Blue Cross Blue Shield. Gotta love the insurance game.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, you kill people? No problem. Come on in. You can sell some insurance.
Yeah, what you do in your spare time really is none of our concern.
Now, it's funny because neither man claimed that they were aware of the other's crimes, and there was no evidence that they were familiar with each other prior to their arrests. So they knew each other around the office, but neither one let the other one know that, hey, we're killing people on the side, guy.
Right.
I think they need to have a better vetting process over there at Blue Cross Blue Shield.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, hopefully they've stepped that game up a little bit.
So, in 71, there was a person named Cornelia Crilly. She was a 23-year-old Trans World Line Airlines flight attendant. She was found raped and murdered in her Manhattan, New York apartment on June 12, 1971. Rodney Alcala had strangled her with her own nylon stockings, leaving her dead in her apartment. It is believed that Crilly met Alcala as she moved into her apartment. He was standing across the street, and she needed help moving stuff up to her apartment. She asked him, because the moving company had just dropped the stuff off in front of her apartment, so she asked Rodney Alcala to help her bring stuff up to her apartment. When they got up there, they progressed to smoke a little marijuana, drink a little bit. He asked if he could take pictures of her. He took some pictures of her, and then he ended up raping and then strangling her with her own stockings. And then raping, I guess, her again, post-mortem. But her murder remained unsolved until 2011, when they went back and found pictures of her being raped and murdered in Rodney Acalas things. Which, yeah, again, great police work there, guys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, good job. So, you know. So, the FBI finally got involved around 1971 when California just could not figure out where this guy who had raped his 8-year-old had went. And they added him to the 10 most wanted list of fugitives in 1971. A few months later, 2 children attending an arts camp noticed his photo on an FBI poster at the post office. He was arrested and extradited to California. By then, Shapiro's parents had relocated their entire family to Mexico. And they refused to allow their 8-year-old daughter to testify at trial. Since the authorities were unwilling to charge him with rape and attempted murder without the primary witness testifying, he was only convicted of child molestation and sentenced to only 3 years. He was paroled in 1974 only after serving 17 months. So back then, you could assault and attempt to murder an 8-year-old child, rape her, and you got 3 years and you only did like 17 months.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. Got out on parole. So, yeah.
Not bad.
Yeah. So in 74 he was released. Less than 2 months after he was released, he was rearrested for assaulting a 13-year-old girl. Identified, of course he was. I mean,
Jesus Christ.
it's fine, guy. We'll just release you after a year and a half, and you can go fucking rape some more children. It's cool.
Yeah, and why and why is like the judicial system and the people in charge of releasing these motherfuckers back out into the wild, why are they not held accountable? So, you know what I mean? A motherfucker rapes or attempts to rape somebody, you let him out in a year and a half, and like we're fucking shocked that he went off and raped somebody else?
Yeah.
I mean, not only should we not be surprised, these motherfuckers that let him back out should fucking go to jail too.
Well,
I mean, Christ.
it was kind of like in the 60s and 70s, in the 80s too, it was almost like a learning curve in this country.
Yeah, that's true.
Because before the 60s, people had a little, I wouldn't say people didn't do this sort of thing because they did, but it was kept very under wraps. Okay, in the 40s and 50s, you know, well, up until the 50s, it was completely legal to marry a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah. Well, and then I mean, there was also a lot of, I think, what is it, naivete?
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, we caught him, we locked him up for a year and a half. Surely to God he's learned his lesson.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm like, yeah.
And that was the thing. They didn't realize that these guys, because again, you're coming off the 50s.
And the 50s probably in a lot of cases, motherfuckers did learn their lessons, you know.
Yeah, but in the 50s, I mean, you got to think, it was more of a leave it to Beaver,
yeah.
What happens at home stays at home kind of culture, where people had the impression that this sort of thing didn't go on. And in the 60s, it became more obvious that it was going on. In the 70s, even more obvious, but they, like you said, they were still naive to the fact that these guys were not able to be rehabilitated.
Yeah.
And it took all the way up until probably the middle 80s to realize, hey, you know, maybe we should lock these guys up a little longer because rehabilitation doesn't seem to be working.
They seem to be repeating the shit that we're putting in.
Right. And, you know, but even now, if you look at it, we still don't give child molesters that long. I mean, 6, 10 years, and they're still back out on the street. And they, you know, with child molestation, I mean, we look at Jared Fogle. I mean, he only got like what, 12 years, 15 years, something like that. You know what I'm saying? So he'll be out before he's like really old.
Yeah.
I mean, he'll still be in his 50s or 60s when he hits the streets.
Right.
You know? And, you know, there's a 95 to 99% rate of reoffending on child molestation. That's why New Orleans just came out, or well, Louisiana altogether came out with that law. If you've offended twice, if you've twice been convicted of child molestation, they will give you two choices: 50 years in prison or chemical castration. If you want to be out, that's fine. You don't have to go to prison, but we're going to chemically castrate you for the rest of your life, which I have no problem with whatsoever.
What? Right.
Right, I think it should be automatic chemical castration. Just cut the balls and be done with it. Shouldn't even be chemical. It should be fucking straight
cut that
castration.
motherfucker off, yeah. And it shouldn't be a second time.
No, right. I mean, the second time you do it, obviously, first of all, he didn't learn his lesson the first time.
Well,
I see giving him one chance.
I don't, because my thing is, a motherfucker gets caught child molesting, you cut his goddamn dick off. You're sending a message, man. Right? You're sending a fucking message.
Well, you don't even have to cut his dick off. You just cut his balls off.
Because, I mean, think about it, dude. Like,
you cut the balls off,
yeah,
the motherfucker can't child molest nobody because his dick don't get hard.
I'm not saying, and I'm not saying it's not a sickness and that it wouldn't happen. But what I'm saying is, even if you are sick in the head like that, like, that's gonna put a lot of fucking goddamn thought in your mind that, man, maybe I better try to overcome this sickness.
Well, yeah,
I don't want my goddamn balls cut off.
See, the reason why they give two is because of problems with the system. And I understand the two thing because of this. Say you're 18 or 19 years old. The girl says she's 18 or 19, but she's really 12 or 13.
Yeah, I mean, for sure.
See, that's why they give you two, because the first time could be an
everything
offset.
can be taken on an individual basis.
And see, that's why they give you two, because, and that's why I understand the twofer kind of thing. If she's like 12 or 13, and she says she's 18, and she looks 18, and you have sex with this girl, you didn't know, then that's why they give you the twofer. Because also you could have, in certain cases, where a child does lie. Because it's been known to happen where even an 8-year-old says, hey, the teacher touched me, because they hate the teacher. So that's why they give you the twofer. The first one, they're going to say, well, you know, yeah, maybe there was something surrounding this that was off.
Yeah.
But twice? No, now you're just, we know for a fact you're fucking molesting children.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. So anyways, back to Rodney. So he assaulted a 13-year-old girl 2 months after his release in 1974. She again accepted a ride, what she thought was to school. And again, he did less than 2 years. He got paroled in 1976. He served around 2 years for that one. For raping a 13-year-old. And again, this doesn't make any sense to me because he just got convicted, just got released from raping an 8-year-old. 2 months later, he rapes a 13-year-old, and you're going to give him again a year and a half?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, after a while, you got to realize this guy ain't learning shit.
Yeah.
So after his second release in 1977, his parole officer took the unusual step of permitting a repeat offender and a known flight risk to travel to New York. Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Cops doing their job. Rodney. Yeah. The police doing their job.
What your name is.
Yeah.
Take off, buddy.
Yeah. We couldn't catch you for years.
Yeah.
You've raped 2 little girls.
Yeah.
But yeah, you seem like a great guy to go to New York.
Yeah, you certainly won't do it in New York.
Yeah.
You just take off, man. You have a good fucking time. Yeah, absolutely.
So they believe.
What do I need? Later, let me sign that for you.
They believe.
If you need any gas money, here you go. Jesus Christ.
So they believe, because they can never prove this, but there's a cold case unit in New York, obviously, that have looked into it. And they believe that a week after returning to New York, a week, mind you, he killed Ellen Jane Hover, 23-year-old daughter of a nightclub owner, who was actually the goddaughter of Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. She was seen in her New York apartment in July 15, 1977. Her daybook showed that she had an appointment with one John Berger, the same alias he used before, that same day. So later in 1977, a tip to the FBI was made about how Alcala had been arrested by police a few years previous for the Shapiro case in New Hampshire. Alcala admitted to knowing Hover under questioning, but investigators could not arrest him since they had not found her body. Her remains were eventually discovered buried under heavy rocks on a hillside overlooking the Hudson River, where a model later reported that Berger, John Berger, had taken photos of her. Again, police doing great police work there. In 78, he had came back to Los Angeles, had worked briefly at the Los Angeles Times as a typesetter, where he was actually interviewed by members of the Hillside Strangler Task Force as part of their investigation looking for them.
Oh, yeah.
He also got arrested for a brief sentence, 6 months for marijuana possession. He convinced hundreds of young men and women at this time that he was actually a professional fashion photographer and took pictures of them for his quote-unquote portfolio that he never had. At times, co-worker later recalled that Alcala shared his photos with workmates. I thought it was weird, he said, but I was young and didn't know anything. When I asked him why he took photos of all those people, he said their moms asked him to. I remembered the girls were naked, and he said he was a professional, so in my mind I was being a model for him, and said the women had allowed Alcala to photograph them in 1979. The portfolio was therefore included in his trial and arrest after many pictures of naked teenage boys were discovered. Most of the photos were explicitly sexual in nature, and many of the subjects remain unidentified. Police believe that many of the subjects are actually cold case victims that they've never found. So in Jesus Christ. In 78, Alcala was a contestant on the popular game show The Dating Game. He was introduced as a successful photographer. Between takes, they said you might find him skydiving or motorcycling. Fellow Bachelor contestants later described Alcala as a very strange guy with bizarre opinions. Alcala actually won the competition and a date with the episode's Bachelorette, Cheryl Bradshaw, but she later refused to go out with him because she found him creepy. Alcala actually killed 3 people after his dating game show appearance. So here's the California crime spree. He murdered Jill Terry, an 18-year-old from New York in California, and disposed of her body on a dirt path near Mulholland Drive in Los Angeles. She was found kneaded chest position, naked from the waist down. There were signs of sexual assault, and she'd been strangled with a blue rope and had been tied up and beaten. She also had 3 bite marks on her breast. They thought she was a victim of the Hillside Strangler, but it later became obvious that she was a victim of Alcala. On December 16, 1977, 27-year-old nurse Georgia Mary Wickstead was discovered dead in her Malibu apartment, where she had last been seen drove home from a bar by Alcala. And when she didn't report to work the next day, she was reported missing. She was posed naked on her bedroom floor, strangled with her own nylon stockings. She had also been sexually assaulted and her skull had been bashed in, and her genitals had been mutilated. They found a handprint at the scene which linked her to Alcala, and DNA evidence from semen, which also linked her to Alcala. Then he killed a 31-year-old Charlotte Lee Lamb. She was a secretary and was found dead in the laundry room of an apartment complex where she was living. She had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled with a shoelace. Her hands were again posed behind her back. DNA at the scene matched Alcala. And they also found a pair of her earrings in his storage locker. He killed a 15-year-old, 1979. He raped her. Oh, no, this is the one that actually this is the one that actually got him caught. So on February 14th, 1979, he picked up a 15-year-old hitchhiker, Monique Hoyt, in Riverside County. He drove Hoyt to her apartment, where he raped her repeatedly. Then he took her out to an area out in the mountainous area of California. He took photos of her in her underwear, as well as pictures of him raping her once again. He bound and gagged her. He then further raped and sodomized her and took pictures of that. She escaped Alcala because he entered a gas station bathroom. He was taking her back because what she told him was that she really liked him. She was smart. Okay, he took her out. First he raped her at her apartment. Then he took her out to the mountains and held her all night. He beat her up, raped her repeatedly, sodomized her, took pictures of her. She told him, "Hey, I really like you. Please don't tell anybody about this because I would feel ashamed and embarrassed." So instead of killing her out there, he decided that this girl really liked him and that she wanted him to rape her and beat her.
Yeah.
So he'd bring her back into town. So they stopped at a gas station. And Alcala said, "Hey, just wait out here. I got to take a piss and we'll go inside and get something to eat." So he went into the gas station bathroom. When he did, of course, she bolted and called the cops.
Yeah.
So he got arrested, but his mother posted bail. So then he's out again. So on June 13th, 1979, which is a few months after this, he meets Jill Marie Pernateau, and she was 21 years old, and she left to work early to go to a baseball game. When she did not make it to work the following morning, police went to her Burbank apartment and found signs of forced entry. And they found her dead on the floor. She was posed with pillows under her shoulders. She'd been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled. Her killer cut himself crawling through the window, and blood evidence later linked Alcala to this. Then there was a 12-year-old from Huntington Beach named Robin Somoso. She had disappeared while she rode her borrowed bicycle to Huntington Beach. Her decomposing body was found 12 days later in Los Angeles foothills, dumped off of Santa Ana County. She'd been beaten, raped, and strangled. He was arrested again on July 1979, and this time they held him without bail for Somosa's murder. and was found guilty May 1980 and was sentenced to death in June. However, the verdict was overturned because jurors had been improperly informed about his prior sex crimes. So he had to have a second trial, 1986, which was virtually the same as the first one. He was again convicted and was sentenced to death in August. In 1992, they upheld the verdict, but he filed a federal habeas corpus, and in 2001, the United States District Court granted it, overturning Alcala's second conviction. But then the decision was upheld in 2003 because they said that a witness was not allowed to support Alcala's connection to a park ranger who found Somoza's body, and they believed that the witness had been hypnotized by police investigators. So they prosecuted him again in 2003 when they learned that Alcala's DNA sample was found, and under new state laws they tested it. Over his objections, they found that his semen left at 2 rape and murder scenes matched his DNA. And this led to an indictment in 2004. And they linked him to the other cases through his DNA sample. In 2003, they gave him new charges for Somoza because they found DNA on her. And then for the third trial, Alcala elected to act as his own attorney. He took the stand in his own defense and for 5 hours played roles of both the investigator and his own witness, asking himself questions and then addressing himself as Mr. Alcala in a deeper than normal voice.
Oh, that's great.
And then he would answer his own questions.
That's awesome.
During the self-questioning answer session, he told jurors, often rambling in a monotone, that he was at Knott's Berry Farm applying for a job as a photographer at the same time when people were raped and kidnapped. He showed the jury his appearance on the dating game show, and in an attempt to prove that his earnings found in the Seattle locker were not Somoza's.
I would love to see that dude interviewing himself and actually changing his voice. That's hysterical.
But he made no significant attempt to dispute the 4 charges that were against him, other than assert that he could not remember killing any of the women. As part of his closing argument, he also played Arlo Guthrie song Alice's Restaurant, in which the protagonist tells the psychiatrist he wants to kill, kill, kill.
What the fuck?
After less than 2 days, the jury convicted him on all 5 counts of first-degree murder.
Yeah, after 2 days of laughing their fucking asses off. Holy shit, man. What a fucking nutbag.
So after his 2010 conviction, New York authorities announced that they would no longer pursue Alcala because of the statutes as a convict awaiting execution. Nevertheless, in January 2011, Manhattan grand jury indicted him for the murders of Crowley and Hoover in 1971 and 77. In June of 2012, he's extradited in New York, where he initially entered not guilty pleas on both accounts. In December 2012, he changed both pleas to guilty, citing a desire to return to California to pursue appeals on his death penalty conviction. January 2013, a Manhattan judge sentenced Alcala to an additional 25 years to life. The death penalty has not been an option in New York State since 2007. So, When he was on death row, though, at age 77, he died of natural causes at 1:43 a.m. on January 21st, 2021, before he could be executed.
Yeah.
So, that's
What a fucking weirdo.
crazy ass Rodney Alcala.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, he played the dating game episode at his trial. Look, couldn't possibly have killed her. I had money from the dating game.
Can you imagine them being a juror and just watching this
I was
dude,
at Knott's Berry Farms
Watching this-
applying for a
watching this dude interview himself?
and then in a deeper voice.
Mr. Nicole, we have a
Mr.
couple
Nicole?
questions for you. Where were you Where were you on the dates and time in question? Well, that's a great question. I was actually at
I mean,
Knott's Berry Farm.
they said he would step around from the witness stand and go, Mr. Alcala, I was just wondering. Yeah, we have a question here. Where were you on the date and time in question? Then he'd step back into the witness box, sit down, and go, well, Mr. Alcala. That's excellent.
It would have been funny.
I was trying to become a photographer in Knott's Berry Farm. Oh, so you say, Mr. Alcala, that you couldn't have been there because, you see, ladies and gentlemen, he was obviously at Knott's Berry Farms. Then he steps back in the witness box. Yes, Mr. Alcala, that's exactly correct. So what you're saying, sir?
You can't make this shit up.
Hey, let's watch this episode of the dating game. Where Mr. Alcala clearly had money.
You could clearly see
You
that.
can clearly see my client, Mr. Alcala.
There's a possible way.
Yeah, and then he steps back in the jury box, or the witness stand. You're right, see, I was right there. As you can clearly see, as Mr. Alcala said.
Yeah, as you can see, my counsel has clearly pointed out.
Yes, clearly he pointed out that I was. Yes, as I was saying. And then in his closing argument, he goes, "Now, I'd just like to play this little song for you here, this little ditty.
Yeah! What the
Alice, kill, kill, kill." As you can clearly see, it shows that Mr. Alcala had borderline personality disorder. Yes, I did, sir. I had the borderline personality, and that's why I don't remember anything. Yes, as you can see.
I can just see the jury now.
You cannot write
The jury,
this shit.
the jury's deliberating, and they're like, man, you know, his lawyer had some pretty good questions.
That's a good point.
I don't know, though. Mr. Alcala himself, like, he kind of seems guilty, but
The way that attorney was
the way that attorney is putting it, man, it just has me kind of questioning myself. I really love that song.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
That had to be the craziest deliberation in the world, boy. They were all sitting there going, what the fuck was that? Can we get some McDonald's in here?
Yeah,
Because obviously he's guilty.
Yeah,
we might as well get a free meal out of this.
Yeah.
Anybody else want to stay at the hotel one more night? They got pay-per-view.
Yeah.
They got pay-per-view.
I wouldn't mind getting another fucking day of this, because this is pretty entertaining. I don't know how long he can keep this up.
Well, anyways, this was our episode on Rodney Alcala, and I hope you guys liked it. We'll see you next time.
Later.
Oh my God. Dude, I swear to
That's
God.
fucking hilarious.
You can't write that shit. You could not write a better.
No, that's a comedy skit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fucking comedy skit. Yeah. I mean, I was at Knott's Berry Farms, so therefore I couldn't have murdered anybody.
Yeah.
Even though you found her earrings in the locker, couldn't have been me.
No.
I was at Knott's Berry Farms taking pictures of jelly.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Unreal, dude.
There's our defense.